people and the dogs that bring them together. This is episode number 43. My name is Bill, and you're tied to the Woe Post. Today's episode is going to be a pretty short one, just a bit of housekeeping, some politics, and a Veterans Day message to close it out. So if you're expecting to hear some fun sporting breed conversation, we'll get back to that next week. Remember to like and follow the Woe Post on Facebook and Instagram. And if you'd like to support the podcast, head over to patreon.com/thewopost and become a patron. Many of you already know that the litter that we were expecting from Skeet and Roscoe isn't coming anymore. At some point between 5 weeks and 8 weeks, we lost the puppies. Most importantly, Skeet is fine and even had a decent hunting day this past Friday, but this is a pretty big hit for our kennel. We've done a lot over the last almost 3 years preparing for our first litter, including conformation evaluations, OFA evaluations, genetic testing, hunt tests, searching for the right stud, lots of work in the whelping room, tons and tons of work in the whelping room. We think we did everything right, but things just didn't work out. I do believe that God does everything for a reason, and maybe he just wanted my hunting season to open up, so I plan on hunting quite a bit over the next few months to travel, get the dogs exposed to as many different birds in as many different places as possible, to meet with old friends and to make new ones, because at the end of the day, it's about people first, then the dogs, and finally the birds. I was excited last week to announce my new partnership with Easy Whelp, a family-run, American-based manufacturer of premium whelping boxes and supplies. I've been mostly interested in their Fab system, which is a modular whelping box similar in style to an X-Pen. Easy Whelp was nice enough to send me a Fab system, and even though I won't be using it for puppies right away as I originally intended, I'm excited to use this system for our next litter. And it's not just a box, it's actually a full system. It starts with a whelping box assembled from panels, but eventually you can attach the add-on room, which gives the mom a chance to get away from the puppies when she wants to, but go back to them when they need her. These boxes come in 3 different sizes to accommodate all sizes of dogs and puppy litters, and there is a whole host of accessories from rails to puppy pads and corner seats for the breeder, top covers, and more. I've begun unboxing the system, and I'm impressed with the quality already, and I can't wait to get it set up. Check them out at easywhelp.com. That's EZWHELP.com. And if you get a chance, tell them Bill at the Woe Post sent you. So last week, something big happened. Lots of folks got out to the polls and cast their ballot, and fortunately, we had the right outcome. In the state of Colorado, Proposition 127, the proposed ban on mountain lion, bobcat, and lynx hunting, was defeated by what is essentially a landslide result. Y'all thought I was going to talk about the president, didn't you? And as you've heard me talk about before, this initiative was an attempt to prevent the hunting of cougars and bobcats while using the lynx as an emotional bait. It's already illegal to hunt lynx in the lower 48 as they're listed endangered. But this bill would take away the management of 2 game species from the biologists, ecologists, and conservation officials who study the animals, their population, and their habitat on a full-time basis. It used emotional pleas and calls for action. It's a divide and conquer approach to eliminating hunting and the use of dogs to hunt. By targeting houndsmen, they thought they could gather enough votes to pass the proposition because they thought that enough other hunters could be swayed. But Coloradans came out in force and voted against the bill. As outdoorsmen and outdoorswomen, we can all take a lesson from this. It's important to understand the legislation and to anticipate what may be coming down the road if we don't act. If this bill was passed in Colorado, the same playbook would have been used in other states, and it would have been followed by emotionally fueled attempts to ban bear hunting, e-collars, and eventually all hunting with dogs. What we're not worried about now may bite us in the future. I'd like to thank the Coloradan voters for stepping up. In other news, many of you are tracking the story about Peanut the squirrel, the social media icon that was adopted by a New York man. Peanut and his or her friend raccoon Fred lived with Pine City resident Mark Longo. They were seized by the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and ultimately euthanized so they could be tested for rabies or whatever. And folks around the world are expressing vehement disagreement with New York's actions. Now, I'm not condoning law enforcement raids on private property for small time crimes, and I'm certainly not a proponent of wasting tens of thousands of dollars of taxpayer money on something as simple as this. But I feel a little bit differently about this in principle, and I'm only a little bit jealous of Peanut's 692,000 Instagram followers. But the fact is that this squirrel and raccoon were wild animals, and they shouldn't have been kept as pets. Just like Indiana Jones believes that the Holy Grail belongs in a museum, wild animals belong in the wild, or at least in a zoo. Now, sure, it's just a squirrel, but in principle, it's no different than people keeping black market leopards, lions, apes, or other animals as pets. It seems like more often than not, these stories don't end well for the animals, and sometimes they don't end well for the people. Think of the number of people out of 692,000 followers who might be inspired or persuaded to adopt a wild animal because of what they saw on Instagram. And I'm using that adopt in air quotes, by the way. They're really stealing a wild animal. Do you think those animals are better off in a suburban home or in their natural habitat? There are plenty of pets available for adoption, even rodents if that's your thing. Or even better, find a well-bred bird dog and get out hunting. Lastly, I want to say Happy Veterans Day to my brothers and sisters who have worn a military service uniform. I spent over 25 years in the active Army and a few in the Army National Guard before that, and I'm very proud of my service. I've shared pictures and videos of my waterfowl wall in my office, but the opposite wall is covered with plaques from the soldiers that I've served with, large color prints depicting the battles that I've fought in, and a few awards, including the Silver Star that I earned in 2007 in the Sangin Valley in Afghanistan, and the Purple Heart that I was awarded from being wounded a little over a month later. There's also a picture of my Ranger School graduating class, pictures of meeting with 2 presidents, and a few other trophies and trinkets that I enjoy looking at from time to time. Almost all of my memories from the Army are fun to think about, but like most people who have fought in combat, and I use the term fought deliberately because there's a difference between fighting in a war and serving in a war that only those who've experienced battle, lost friends, or taken life will understand. I've got some memories that sneak up on me from time to time, and they can ruin my day. In fact, the other day, my family and I were driving somewhere, and we were listening to an audiobook about the significance of interpersonal interaction in cultures. And the author, a well-known combat journalist, talked about his experience with post-traumatic stress. As he described his symptoms, there was an awkward silence in the truck. It seemed like he was talking about me, and my wife and kids knew it, and I knew that they knew it. My cheeks flushed and my skin tingled. I was vulnerable and exposed. I wanted to turn it off, but I knew that would only expose me more, so I sat silent and pretended that I was just driving and passively listening to the book, but I couldn't wait for that trip to end. What's comforting is that I know that I'm not alone. My combat experience isn't unique, and I'm guessing that most folks that have the experiences that I do have similar demons. And even those who weren't in direct combat struggle a bit. Imagine being in a place where everything that you do matters, and everyone moves with purpose and direction every minute of every day. where something as simple as cleaning your glasses can save your life or somebody else's. Then one day you're back home and everything is more casual and even relaxed. People lack the sense of urgency that kept you and your friends alive, mostly because it's just not needed. You view someone's patience as inaction or even negligence, and you feel like you're the only one who cares. You're alienated and you're alone. For many, this leads to alcohol or drug abuse, and for some, it's even worse. But it led me to the outdoors. In the outdoors, I can be as deliberate or casual as I want to be. I can stalk a deer scent and sound free, using terrain and vegetation to conceal my movement until I'm within archery range. Or I can doze off sitting against a tree, the warm sun warming my cheeks and clothes. I can analyze maps and imagery, identify food sources, assess cover, and target upland birds. Or I can just leisurely follow my dogs wherever their noses take them and me. And as long as I'm with my dogs, I know that everything that they're doing is solely focused on locating, pointing, and retrieving birds. They're 100% committed, whether I am or not. And I know that this outlet works for other veterans as well. That's why I support Wounded Warrior Outdoors, the Fallen Outdoors, and a few other hunting and fishing focused veterans outreach organizations. And it's probably why I tend to prefer hunting with other veterans. Somewhere deep inside, I know that they're out there for the same reasons that I am. Stay steady, and God bless.